I am here with Chelsey Bishop, who's known as Keto Half-Asser on social media. And Chelsey struggled with obesity most of her life until a very significant moment on vacation that sparked a change. She turned to the keto diet in 2018 and has since lost 170 pounds. Her story has been featured by various publications like Daily Mail, and she now entertains and inspires an online keto community on social media with her 47,000 followers on Instagram. So, Chelsey, welcome. Super excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to speak with you.
I'm really excited. So, I think the thing I'm learning so far from chatting with people is that everyone has a very significant moment, what I like to call their aha moment, when they decided to make a change. And I think that yours truly stands out. So tell us about that.
Sure. So my aha moment happened on vacation. It was a vacation that my boyfriend and I were very excited about. We don't really take vacations or get time off of work, so we really planned this one. We did a road trip across the country. We live in Arizona and we decided to go to Universal Studios in Orlando. We drove the whole way. We were really excited. We get to the park and immediately, just walking from the parking garage to the actual park, I was like, oh my goodness, like my feet hurt so bad, even just walking to the entrance of the park. And I was just not prepared for how, I guess, out of shape that I was, and didn't realize it. And so we end up going into the park and it was really busy. It was a holiday week. It was like New Year's, Christmas week. So the lines were very long. So a lot of standing in line. We stood in line for the Mummy together to ride the Mummy roller coaster. That was one of our favorites like 10 years ago back at the other Universal Studios. And so we stand in line, we board the ride, and the harness or the lap bar wouldn't latch over my body when we boarded the ride. And it was so embarrassing. And so the ride attendant came over and she tried to push the bar down over me really hard. She was probably, I don't know, like early 20s, maybe late teens. I don't know. It was really embarrassing. My boyfriend tried pushing it down. Everyone around the ride was staring at us, and I just volunteered to get off. And the look in the ride attendant's face was just, I'll never forget it. It kind of haunts me because she just looked so sad for me that I couldn't ride this ride because of my size, you know? And so I just got off and I was standing there at the exit waiting for my boyfriend to get off the ride. And I was just thinking about the lack of quality of my life that had come to fruition because of my size. And I just couldn't believe that I let it get to that point.
And so your boyfriend went on the ride and you got off and he's still, I mean, waiting in those lines at Universal. I have been there. I'd be like, I'm getting on this roller coaster. It's been like an hour and a half of my life.
I know. I didn't want to ruin his experience, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I can only imagine how, you were going through all of those emotions in that moment, as you just said. And then that must have just been an incredibly lonely feeling of just kind of sitting with all those emotions, knowing that like you couldn't get on the ride with him.
It was lonely and it was defeating. And at the same time, I didn't want that moment to set the precedence for the whole experience, like the whole vacation. So I was really trying to like push it away and to act like it wasn't that big of a deal, and to try and justify it. But really, it was an eye-opening experience. It really was.
You had this moment, you're on this vacation, and then was it kind of on that trip that you were like, I need to make a change, or did it take you, coming back home and spending some more time with that experience to decide that you wanted to alter your life in some way?
So I came home, and about a month later, I would say like maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, I was browsing social media, and one of my friends had posted a transformation photo of herself losing 100 pounds. And she did it with a ketogenic way of eating. And she wasn't selling anything, and she wasn't hyping any product up or trying to recruit for a team or anything like that. And so I was like, wow, she did this. I know her in real life. She did it with a ketogenic way of eating. And so at that point, I started Googling it, and I started just diving into the research of, okay, what's the ketogenic diet? Like, what does it consist of? Could I do this? Could
Mhm.
this work for me? And so just seeing someone else have that kind of success of losing 100 pounds. I had about 200 pounds that I ideally wanted to lose. And so I kind of felt like that would be hopeless without getting surgery or something like that. And I really had no idea that it would be possible through food. It was kind of like just a shot in the dark. I was just kind of seeing if something like that could work a miracle for me. And it did. And it really is no miracle at all, come to find out. It's just persistence and consistency and patience.
Mm. And you had looked into options before the keto, right? Like I think you mentioned to me when we first spoke that you sat through a seminar for bariatric surgery before you found this person's transformation photo.
I did in 2017. I think it was about the summer. I was looking into my options, just trying to see, if surgery would be something that maybe I could fit in to my life or that I would be willing to do. I really didn't understand weight loss surgery at all. And so I went to a bariatric surgery presentation at a hospital. And after that presentation is when it clicked with me that the doctor basically explained that what the surgery does is makes your stomach smaller, and essentially it forces you to eat less food. Therefore you lose weight through that method. And for some reason, I just thought it was more complicated than that, than just eating less food or holding less food. And I was just like, so risk my life, have to recover, have to pay money, have to, endure pain and all of this just to eat less food. It just didn't seem like that was something that I needed to do at the time. And I just wanted to try and do it on my own.
Because that's just such a intense process to go through, as you
Yeah.
just said. And so it sounds like you thought, well, if the entire outcome is for me to just eat less food, then why don't I just look into doing this through actually just altering the way that I eat
Right,
instead of going through
exactly.
that
And
process.
it boils down to your food. That's it's
Hmm.
you're eating. And that is kind of what clicked with me as well. Either go through surgery and endure this pain and have to take time off work. And I'm pretty busy, and that just wasn't something that I thought was worth it when I could do that kind of for free and with research, through just changing my way of eating.
Right, right. And so you landed on keto. So was there any other like research you did into any other types of diets or food plans or anything like that for you? Or was it that when you saw your friend who had such success on this, you just thought, no, that's the thing for me and I want to try doing that too?
It was literally, that is what I want to try. I
Mhm.
think I can do this. I want to see if I can do this. Potatoes are my favorite food. Like French fries are 100% like my most favorite food, but my life was more special to me than a side of fries. And so I was willing to accept that I would have to give up some of these things that I was so used to having for not a lifetime, but just most of the time, probably for a few years, because of the amount of weight that I really wanted to lose to get into a good realm of health. And so it was keto. So keto is kind of the path that led me into this good health that I'm experiencing now. And so after kind of doing it for a few months and seeing the transformation it did just in a few months, I felt so good. I felt so energized. My lethargy was so diminished, and I just felt really good all the time. I had a good spirit, and I was satisfied with what I was eating. That was the most important part, was really being happy with your food, because if you're not, then you're probably not going to stick with it. I knew that keto was probably going to take me all the way.
Right. So it sounds like you got really lucky almost in that you right away said, I'm just going to try keto, but it ended up working really well for you. Like, as you said, you have to find the thing that you enjoy, or
Right.
the food that you enjoy, because otherwise you'll just feel defeated and
You
unhappy, and you won't
definitely
want to
have
do
to
it.
find the way of eating that is going to be sustainable for your life, and it's going to fit into your life, and you're going to enjoy it. And you should enjoy your food, and you should enjoy what you eat. It shouldn't be a punishment every time you have to feel your body. So that is a very important part of it.
Right. Yeah, I so agree. You can't just like force yourself to eat that one vegetable that you don't really like, because there's a bunch of other ones out there, and you'll find something for you that works.
Exactly.
So for anyone who's listening to this, tell us a little bit about keto itself and kind of what that diet entails, if anyone doesn't know.
Sure. So there's various ways to keto, as the kids say, but how I have always kind of done it is just trying to keep my net carbs that I eat every day around 20, because that will force your body into a state of ketosis. So your body will transfer from running on glucose for energy to your stored fat and your dietary fat. So you're using ketones and fat for energy instead of glucose. And so when you keep your ketone, or you keep your carbohydrates around 20 a day, that's kind of the sweet spot for most people, where they'll be able to stay in a state of ketosis and be satiated well and feel good and get the benefits of ketosis. Some people can eat more, some people will have to eat less, but for me, it was always around 20. And I think that's kind of the thing for most people. But some people are very strict about it, like with ingredients. For example, I dabble in low carb tortillas every once in a while, and those have wheat in them, but they're high fiber. And some keto diet followers will not allow wheat whatsoever, because it isn't an inflammatory ingredient. But I wasn't necessarily doing keto for inflammation. I was pretty much doing it for weight loss mostly. So that doesn't really, rank high on my priority list there. And if it fits into my day, and if it makes me enjoy my food a little more, it makes the diet a little more sustainable, then I allow stuff like that.
I didn't realize you could do it for inflammation purposes as well. I think I've kind of always known it as a weight loss tactic for people, or stabilizer or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people actually follow it just for the inflammation purposes, because like sugar, wheat, gluten, those are inflammatory things, and the keto diet pretty much cuts all of that stuff out. So it's a very low inflammation way to eat.
That's so interesting. I did not know that. So you very much seem like an expert in all of this now to me. I mean, I admittedly don't know a ton about keto, so you could be totally lying, and I would just believe you. But so did you learn about all of this kind of through like trial and error, through the recipes you were testing, or were you doing research as you were going along? Kind of how did you figure out what to do and how to plan? Because I know that undertaking a diet like this can seem really overwhelming to some people, because of the restrictions, as you mentioned, or the thoughtfulness you need to put into in terms of your meal planning.
Yeah, it is very overwhelming. And I feel like that might be a big reason why a lot of people just give up, because they see conflicting information. They think maybe they're doing it wrong. But that's just kind of with anything. You have to just take it all in, just do your research, learn from different sources, and kind of pick and choose what maybe you agree with or what would work for you, and trial and error. See if the low carb tortillas affect you at all. if they make you feel swollen or inflamed or something from the wheat, then maybe don't have them. But I joined a lot of like keto Facebook groups and stuff, and that I learned a lot of stuff from there. But everyone kind of, you know, thinks they're an expert in those groups, and you kind of learn that as you go. Is you have to take all the information and all the advice with a grain of salt, because everyone's kind of applying the diet to their life in their own way. So you just kind of have to be like, go with the ebb and flow and be kind of easy about it, and don't be too hard on yourself where, you know, even I do this 3 years into it, I will eat something that I think is completely keto friendly or low carb, and then I put it in, say, the carb manager app on my phone just to check, and it's like 50 carbs or something because like the wings were breaded or something. I didn't realize it. So I still mess up to this day, but you just don't let it completely derail you or ruin your progress. You just do better the next day.
That's such good advice. I feel like that's applicable universally for anyone just kind of changing their diet at all, whether it's keto or whether they're just trying to eat healthier in general.
It's all about baby steps and just trying to do better every day, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, I think. So you mentioned the Facebook groups, right? So, and of course you have this very flourishing Instagram. People love following you and being part of the little community you've built. And so tell me what made you start your social media, and how much having this community and these support sources online helped you in this journey that you were taking off on.
Sure. So coming from the Facebook groups, I would see people reference keto Instagram influencers or people to follow on Instagram instead. And so I kind of went from Facebook into Instagram, and I found this keto community on Instagram, and it was just so much more light and happy and more of a community feeling, less keto police, and just more like a bunch of friends kind of doing this together on Instagram versus Facebook. So I decided that I just wanted an entire Instagram account just of my keto stuff. I wanted to open my app and have nothing but keto stuff in my feed. I wanted to be inspired by other people that were doing the diet. I wanted to see what they were eating. And so I just made my own Instagram account, and I made it Keto Half-Asser because I was eating out all the time, and I was kind of like hacking the system, trying to like figure out how to stay keto but still eat out. So I felt like I was kind of half-assing the diet. So I started that account with no intention of even showing my face, showing what I looked like. All I wanted to do was kind of post my food and follow other people. But when you get immersed into this community and you start connecting with other people and you see these other people on their journey, it kind of just inspires you to be more open and to share a little more of yourself, because you are always going to have someone that will relate to you in that same situation. And so I just started, you know, being a little more personable, uploading my face, like before and after photos, which I never ever thought I would ever post like a picture of my body at 340 pounds on the internet. That was something that I used to swear up and down that I would never do because it was so mortifying to me, but you know, it happened. And so just with that sense of community, it just made it so much more fun. And then it made it feel like you were kind of on a team. And so that really made the diet also more sustainable, because you just feel a sense of like you're not alone. And that is a really important factor when you're on this journey, like a weight loss journey over a long period of time, because you don't want to feel alone. You want to feel like you can relate to other people. And you find that on social media, but you just have to kind of take the right avenue. And there's always going to be a community out there for you, you know, for anything that you're doing. And I think personally that the Instagram keto community is like the best out there.
Well, it definitely seems like you're always having so much fun with it. But it's good to know that having this support system for you was so key in like keeping you going forward with it. Cause I agree. I think having someone or something in your corner, knowing that you're not alone in doing a journey like this, is just so key to keep you going and keep you happy and keep you motivated. And like I have my WayBetter games, of course, and then I have friends who I play them with, or even just I have a friend who I'll just text after I've worked out and I'm like, I did it today and I didn't want to, but I did it.
Yeah, it
And
really helps with accountability. It really does.
yeah, yeah, I think that's so important. So let's talk a little bit about the moment you kind of noticed the changes. So you made this Instagram, you were starting to gain followers, you were finding these friends online, and you were going through this diet. When was the moment that you noticed it was really working for you and having a positive impact on your health?
You know, it's funny because like the scale changes were a lot more consistent than my brain noticing changes in the mirror. Even to this day, 3 years later and like 170 pounds later, sometimes I really struggle with seeing a change from my old identity because I spent my whole life being, morbidly obese. And so it's tough sometimes. But in the beginning, I was losing pretty consistently. The most I ever lost was about 10 pounds a month. And that was pretty consistent my whole entire first year. I lost about 10 pounds a month on average, like 9 or 10. And so that was always consistent. But the physical changes, it really took a while. And I don't know if it was because I started at 340 pounds, but I had to lose probably like 50 or 60 pounds, which is 5 or 6 months in, before I really noticed like a physical difference. And looking in the mirror, I didn't notice it, but comparing photos is how I noticed it. So photos are so important when you are starting a weight loss journey. And I really, really wish, and probably anyone you ask that's on the similar journey, you wish that you took more before photos from like every angle and multiple outfits, like naked with clothes, just you want as many before pictures as you want because you're going to be changing. And so you want to compare that. And the mirror isn't going to do justice all the time because your brain sees yourself every day. And so after about 5 or 6 months of comparing the photos of before and after in the same shirt in the same spot in the mirror, I was like, wow, my stomach is looking so much smaller. And then I started to see if smaller sizes would fit me. And they were sizes. Like I couldn't believe the first time I got out of the size 20s because I started at a 28-30 jean. And the first time I was able to put on a size 18, I almost cried because I never thought in my life I'd be able to get out of the 20s, and now I'm an 8-10. And even that, sometimes when I order jeans online and they come, I pick them up and they look so small. And I'm like, there's no way they're fitting me. I need to send them back. And then I try them on and they do fit. So it's always just this like evolution between your brain and your actual reality kind of like meshing.
That's so interesting. The photos. I actually was thinking about that recently where I was thinking like, what did people do for, I mean, I get a sense of probably what they did, but it's funny to think like what people did for before and after photos before smartphones. And it was so easy. Like, were they just taking photos of like their digital camera and like going to CVS to develop them? And
like waiting 2 weeks in between.
Right. It makes me laugh thinking about it. But yeah, that's something, I've been experiencing where I've been working out a lot more and been waiting to see the results. And you're right in that staring at the mirror every day doesn't really help because I look every day and I just convince myself that I don't see a change. And then I look at a photo and I'm like, oh, I actually think I'm starting to see something there, which is crazy. So you mentioned that it took 6 months for you to really notice a difference. So during that 6 months, did you ever feel kind of like defeated over that you felt like you weren't seeing a change, or like how did you keep yourself motivated during that time to really stick to what you started?
So I focused on being excited. And I think that is a key factor in this when you have a long journey ahead of you, is don't try to focus so much on the negatives or how slow you're losing or how little notice of a change that or how little of a change that you're noticing, but be excited when people would post photos of their loose skin, for example, after losing 100 pounds. I didn't fear that. I didn't fear the thought of finding loose skin on my body. I was so excited to find loose skin on my body because I was like, oh my gosh, that could be me. Instead of having, big, huge arms, I'll have like flabby skin arms. And that's going to be so exciting because that's going to be all my hard work. So I would just try to look at the end of the line. Like I would try to always focus kind of further down the road and like picture myself 6 months from now if I kept on track, or a year from now if I kept on track, and how my body might look, how I might feel, how my health might be different, how my blood work will change when I go to the doctor. Instead of so much like day to day, it was always kind of a longer end goal for me. And it still is. Like, I really don't ever feel like I'm going to have a finish line that I've crossed, because this is for life. I'm going to be maintaining this. And I've never really had a goal weight. I've just always wanted to feel really good and feel healthy. And I'm there now, but I don't want to stop. So,
Yeah, I love that. That's so inspiring. And it sounds like you almost started in a place and continued in this place where you've just felt incredibly like empowered with knowing yourself on this journey and knowing like exactly what you wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was very exciting to me too, was seeing what I was capable of, because I never dreamed ever that I would be smaller than a size 28. The smaller than 300 pounds. The first time I saw the number 2, when I hit the 200s on the scale, it was like, I can't believe I did that, because I never thought it would happen for me. And just seeing what your body and your brain are capable of doing, and realizing that you have so much more power and so much more control over this than what you're kind of made to believe, because you're kind of taught to believe like you have to be working out, you have to eat, brown rice and quinoa and steamed broccoli with no seasoning on it to lose weight. And it's just not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, as you said, like you just found the amazing thing that worked for you and that made you feel powerful and made you want to keep going, which is
exactly,
I think just that's the key for everybody, is just finding that thing that sparks that joy, as people say now, and makes you want to stick to it. Because otherwise, yeah, if you're not happy or you just feel miserable and you don't look forward to your meals or your workouts or whatever it is,
right,
you're likely to fall off. And
it shouldn't feel like a punishment. And there are so many exciting things in store for if you get to that end goal that you're trying to get to so bad. And you might even be there before you actually, like, we put a goal weight or a goal timeline in our heads, but who are we to really say that? I've been morbidly obese my whole life pretty much, and so I have no idea what my body looks like at these smaller weights. So when people would ask me a goal weight, I'd be like, I don't know what my body looks like at 170. I don't know what it looks like at 160. I don't know what it looks like at 150. So I'm just whatever. I don't know where my body's gonna feel comfortable. And so we might start at 350 or whatever, and with a goal of being at like 170, but maybe you're perfectly fine and happy and feeling good at like 225. Who's to say? So you also have to adjust along the way. You have to to fine tune your expectations too, so you don't set yourself up for disappointment.
And that's actually a really great segue for a thought I was having, which is I wanted to ask you like exactly kind of what tips you would give somebody who, you know, is wanting to change their life right now, but hasn't started yet or hasn't really figured out how to, like, looking back at this journey that you've gone through, what's like the key piece of advice that you would give someone like that?
The key piece of advice that I constantly remind people all the time is don't be so hard on yourself. And I feel like we're our own worst enemies and we're our own worst critics. And if we feel like we messed something up, it's almost like we self-sabotage the next meal or the next day or the week after that, when really it's just get right back on track the very next meal. It's no big deal. Just brush it off. You know, if you indulged in a few pieces of pizza on Friday, on Saturday, just, you know, get right back on track to how you were doing and just pretend like it didn't even happen. You know, you just got to get right back on it. And that's life, because I, you know, applaud anyone who says that they can go the whole rest of their life without eating, you know, a carb or a piece of pizza, but that's not me. You know, I'm not going to go the rest of my life not having a piece of pizza. It's not realistic. So you just have to give yourself some leeway and understand that this is your lifestyle, and a couple mess ups here and there isn't going to derail all of your hard work or all of your progress, as long as you don't quit.
Yeah. And that will create the sustainability that people are always looking for, of like,
Exactly.
how do I make this a long-term lifestyle versus like these yo-yos that we all put ourselves through, and the shame and the, like, you know, self-blame when we don't hit a certain goal in a month, because it's never a month, you know. So
exactly, you have to enjoy your food, your life, your lifestyle, and so you just have to try to make it as fun and light as possible, you know, to stick with it.
make it fun, that's the motto.
Exactly.
Or half-asser, as your
Yes, just half-ass your way through it and it'll be good.
So looking back at that very first moment when you like got off the roller coaster and you couldn't get on with your partner, what would you say to yourself now if you could like go back in time to that version of Chelsey? Is there something that you would tell her?
I would tell her that I'm so proud of her for carrying around this large body our whole life. And it's not easy. It's not easy to live your life as a super morbidly obese person. It's just not. Everything's a lot harder. You carry around a lot more anxiety. And I always go back when I'm looking at like my before and after photos, and I always look at myself in 2017 or earlier, and I just like want to thank her, because she did all this work and she got us to this place of health and of achievement, you know, and fulfillment. And if she didn't have that fortitude, you know, like we would still be getting kicked off of roller coasters and having all of this crippling anxiety. And I just would go back and hug her and tell her thank you.
It's so beautiful. I think that's the perfect thing to say. We're very proud of her. Well, Chelsey, this has been so great. I'm going to ask you a couple fun rapid questions before we go, and then you are free to go enjoy your evening. But
awesome.
You are so inspiring. I think it's incredible, the like positivity that you retain and the way that you've just been able to make this keto diet and like your weight loss journey just really part of your lifestyle. Like when I think of taking on a diet like that, I get so overwhelmed when I think about it, and you just make something that seemed so big like seem so easy and so doable. And so it's just really, really nice to hear from you and hear your perspective on that.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
Of course. Okay, so a couple fun questions for you before we go. So, what is one myth about health that you used to believe was true?
Well, I used to believe that exercise was 100% a requirement for weight loss. And that is 100% not true because I lost most of my weight with zero exercise. And that is one big reason why it took me so long to figure it out.
What's that thing people say? Abs are made in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Weight loss happens number 1%, like 100% through your mouth for sure.
Yeah. What is your favorite keto recipe and why?
Well, right now, it's not much of a recipe as it is like a very quick hack that I am obsessed with right now is I get a big tub of plain pork rinds. I get the big like $5 one from Sam's Club. And then when I'm craving something sweet, I will toss a handful of them into a Ziploc bag and I will throw some cinnamon in there and some keto sweetener. So like some swerve or erythritol or monk fruit or something, shake it around. Sometimes I'll add a little melted butter too. And they taste like churros, like Taco Bell cinnamon twists, and they're zero carbs and they're so delicious.
I'm gonna have to try that. Okay. And lastly, you obviously inspire so many people all the time, but who inspires you?
Well, I would say that I am so inspired by the typical average run of the mill human being who is able to transform their life in a big way. Not necessarily, maybe it's not weight loss, maybe it's they pull themselves out of debt, they've overcome a tough childhood, they've grown a business from a ground up, and they're not doing it for anyone but themselves. I talk to people like that every day on Instagram, and I am just inspired daily by just the average person who transforms their life completely.
I am too. It's that's I think my favorite thing about watching people like in the WayBetter community is everyone's just trying to do that all together, and you really see people make it happen for themselves. And I feel like you could be a motivational speaker on just like how to change your life to do anything.
Aw, thank you.
You're so welcome. Well, Chelsey, again, this was so fun. I loved hearing your story. I loved getting your advice. I'm definitely feeling very inspired now. So thanks for chatting with me, and we'll see you in a game soon, I'm sure.
Of course. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Thanks so much. Bye.